Hello everyone, you are watching Weekly Forex Report by Light Forex. In this video, we will discuss the outlook for the main currency pairs and explore the profit opportunities which are there to take. Let's start with having a look at the US dollar index chart. You can see that the American currency recovered last week after it was down for 3 weeks in a row. There is some potential for the US currency to continue rising in the upcoming days. The USD took advantage of the improved global risk sentiment, and it is especially positive versus the USD versus Swiss franc, and also has prospects versus the currencies like the euro and the British pound. All in all, the global risk sentiment improved, although today we got the information that China's economic growth slowed down to the weakest levels since the global financial crisis. Anyway, the market so far hasn't paid much attention to that. Traders are hopeful about the prospect of the US-Chinese solution of trade tensions. Chinese Vice Premier Minister will visit America at the end of January, and some compromises may take place. Also, traders are hopeful because of the more dovish Federal Reserve, the US Central Bank, which was observed recently. And also, the market is optimistic because now many traders think that Britain could avoid a no-deal Brexit. This also is a source of optimism. Much in the sense of the dynamics of the USD in the upcoming days will depend on the US corporate earnings season, because now American companies are releasing their revenue and EPS reports for the fourth quarter. So this will be on the news. US government remains in the shutdown position, and Donald Trump and the members of his administration will not visit the Global Economic Forum, which starts in the Switzerland city of Davos this week. So you can see there are a lot of different events. For now, market is more positive. However, the risk sentiment will likely remain shaky because there are many events which may destroy the market's optimism. But technically, the US dollar index seems to have found support. There are some positive signs from moving averages here, so a bit of the upside is also possible. Let's check the economic calendar at lightforex.com in order to see which major events will take place this week. Today, as I have mentioned, there already was this release of China's GDP growth, and there was a weaker than expected figure. Here it is. Also, today, Monday, is a bank holiday in the United States, so trading during the US session is going to be subdued. On Tuesday, there will be the release of British employment data. In the European session, we'll focus on that for the British pound. In Europe, Germany will publish economic sentiment index, and this will also be important. America will release existing home sales, and at night from Tuesday to Wednesday, New Zealand will release its inflation figures. You can see that a slowdown in price growth is expected. This may be a source of further negative pressure on the New Zealand dollar. On Wednesday, there will be the release of core retail sales in Canada, and also there will be a meeting of the Bank of Japan. The Japanese central bank hasn't changed its policy for a considerable time. There are further risks that inflation in Japan won't be very high, it will continue staggering. As a result, there are negative there is negative potential for the Japanese yen on Wednesday. On Thursday, there will be the release of Australian employment data. Here you can see the forecast is not very exciting. Also, there will be the release of European manufacturing PMIs, the latest data about the European economy. So far, the euro area's economic situation wasn't very bright. Germany managed to avoid recession by a very small margin. There are still a lot of problems in Italy. So, of course, the market will be interested in insights in how the European economy is doing. In addition, there will be the meeting of the European Central Bank, the press conference. Usually, this event has a big impact on the market because the central bank's president, Mario Draghi, can make some important commands. And despite the fact that the European Central Bank has ended its quantitative easing program, the market is not expecting a rate hike in Europe anytime soon, and the central bank may underline the risks for the European Union and the euro area. So there might be negative pressure on the euro from this event. Take notice of it here. On Friday, we see here the release of the US core durable goods orders. So pay attention to that. And during the week, there will be commands from the World Economic Forum. There are many topics for the global policymakers to discuss, from China's economic growth to the policy of central bank and trade tensions. So a lot of things to discuss. Let's now move to the charts of the main currency pairs. Switch on MetaTrader and see what opportunities lie here. Euro dollar currency pair, the weekly chart, the same old picture we have been observing for the last, I don't know, maybe 10 candlesticks or even more. I haven't counted that. We can see that still the 200-week moving average around 1.1320 is acting as support. However, the euro was rejected from the upside from the levels around 1.15 and got this impulse to the downside. The overall downtrend clearly continues, and if this consolidation we have been seeing for the last couple of months turns out to be a flag, the downtrend continues towards levels like 1.12. On the daily chart, we can see everything in greater detail. We can see that last week the price action for the euro was mostly negative. The currency pair went below support of the 50-day moving average located at 1.1377. It is currently a resistance, and the level to watch, the main one, is at 1.1325. Selling will become more active once we are below that level. Resistance is at 1.1410, 1.1450, and 1.15 mark. The British pound had an interesting week. It managed to test the psychologically important level of 1.30, but then was rejected down. There are a lot of events in the UK. Firstly, British Parliament rejected the plan of Prime Minister Theresa May, the Brexit plan, which she spent a lot of time negotiating with the European Union. However, British lawmakers still voted and gave confidence to Theresa May, so she is up to making further steps to resolve the Brexit issue. And now the agenda is that lawmakers will propose alternative plans. Theresa May will propose her new plan today on Monday, January 21st. And there will be a debate in British Parliament on January 29th. So, of course, there will be a lot of news ahead of that. And now the market sentiment is becoming more positive because traders think that Britain will be able to avoid a Brexit without any trade deal with the European Union. There is also a higher probability that Britain will hold a second Brexit referendum, and this is also a positive thing for the British pound. However, still there is a lot of uncertainty. There are a lot of concessions between the members of the British Parliament to make, between Britain and the European Union to make. So we think that still the British pound won't be able to show significant growth. In addition, the resistance at 1.30 does look impressive. The pair also went below 1.29. It went below 100-day moving average at 1.2890. So the natural support to look at is located around 1.2755, where we have 50-day moving average. So here is the picture from the 4-hour chart, and if the pound returns to 1.30, still this level won't be easy to overcome on the upside, especially as long as we are still ahead of debates and ahead of all important decisions which are related to Brexit. Still, this is not decided yet, so I think that we will be trading in the area between 1.30 and 1.2755 in the upcoming days. US dollar Canadian dollar is consolidating under the resistance at 1.33. Clearly, a break above that level is necessary, and the next resistance will be around 1.3340 mark. If we apply Fibonacci here, we will see that indeed Fibonacci levels correspond and provide us with another resistance at 1.3360. If we look to the downside, then for the continuation of the movement, we will need to go below 1.33, 1.3250, 1.3225, and support will be located at 1.3180. Canadian dollar is supported as we see recovery in both sorts of oil, Brent oil and WTI oil as well. Crude oil actually rose to 2-month highs. Brent is trading above 62, as we can see here, and is trying to reverse to the upside. Oil managed to rise despite the China's economic growth slowdown, as the growth of production in the United States is also lower, and actually, well, the market seemed to be more optimistic. So some smaller upside is possible for oil, but of course, technically, we see that resistance is still present at the nearby levels. So we can't say that oil is able to return to the previous big uptrend for now. It's too early to talk about that, but there is a chance that the asset will continue to test resistance levels. The pair US dollar versus the Japanese yen continued its recovery. It recovered more than 50% of December-January decline. Let's make the Fibonacci more precise here. Here we are. So on the upside, we are looking at the next Fibonacci level around 61.8 in the area of 110.30, while support is located around 109.30, 109.20. And as we opened the week with the gap down, the pair can test lower levels. We will have the Bank of Japan's meeting on Wednesday. However, it is likely that there will be demand for the USD on the downside, and the pair will be able to get towards 110.30 mark. Australian dollar, US dollar failed to get above 0.72 and is now looking to be vulnerable for a return to 0.71. The volatility here has declined. The situation is more interesting for the New Zealand dollar, which went rather sharply down, and we are now looking at levels around 0.67, 0.6630, where we can draw a support line. Remember that we'll get New Zealand's inflation figures, and the forecasts are not really inspiring. Gold faced big resistance ahead of 1,300. It kind of went to the downside. There were several inside bar candlesticks. Now we are trading in the negative area, and the focus is on the weekly support at 1,270. This is the target area for gold. Finally, looking at the US S&P 500 stock index, we can see that American shares managed to rise in the last days and last weeks, managed to recover. However, now we ran into resistance, and much will depend on the earnings which are released this week. The earnings will be of Johnson & Johnson, IBM, UBS, United Technologies, Texas Instruments, and Ford. So watch these earnings reports and see that the major resistance is around 2,700, while support is located at 2,636 ahead of 2,580 mark. This is all for today. Thank you for your attention, and trade with Light Forex.